Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Martial Universe Season 10 Part 83 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. The cold aura, which seemed capable of freezing time itself, stilled for a moment due to Lin Dong's angry and hoarse voice. Following which, the Flame Master and the rest looked at Lin Dong with a complicated emotion in their eyes. Lin Dong slowly lifted his head, before he stared at the pretty figure in front of him. Meanwhile, when the latter saw that his eyes were filled with fury, she clenched her hands tightly. When the Heaven Seat King saw this complicated situation, he gave a faint smile. Then, he glanced at Lin Dong before he said, "Do you want to know why? I can tell you the answer." The Heaven Seat King gently stepped forward. Immediately, his warm and friendly-looking face became extremely cold and insidious. Meanwhile, terrifying demonic aura, which could not be described with words, surged out from within his body. In fact, his demonic aura was so frightening that they were even able to block the shocking cold aura from Ying Huan Huan. It seemed as if the entire world was trembling under his demonic aura. This was strength that could truly annihilate the world. When the Flame Master and the rest detected how terrifying his demonic aura were, their expressions began to turn solemn. It seems like the Heaven Seat King had indeed made a complete recovery. It's because if she did not do so, all of you will die. The Heaven Seat King gave a cruel smile. Currently, with the support of his dense demonic aura, he looked just like the devil himself. It was a terrifying sight to behold. "Let me try." Fury surged within Lin Dong's heart, before a buzzing sound was immediately emitted from the divine palace between his brows. Then, he stared at the Heaven Seat King, before his body moved and he rushed forward. However, an icy cold hand grabbed his shoulder just as he was about to do so. "Currently, you are no match for him." A clear yet exceptionally icy cold voice resounded beside Lin Dong's ear. Lin Dong's expression sunk. He jerked his shoulder before he pushed away that icy cold hand. Following which, silver light glimmered on his body, before he appeared right above the Heaven Seat King in a flash. Then, resplendent purple gold light erupted before 100,000 purple gold dragon light tattoos roared in unison. Bang! Lin Dong threw a punch forward. Immediately, the 100,000 purple gold dragon light tattoos immediately transformed into a massive purple gold dragon which was hundreds of thousands of feet in size. After which, it roared towards the sky, before it tore through the empty space and charged explosively towards the Heaven Seat King. You are quite skilled indeed. However, this is not enough. When the Heaven Seat King saw Lin Dong's attack, he gave a faint smile. All of a sudden, he extended his fair hands before he swung them downwards. Immediately, two extremely deep black light flashed, before that large purple gold dragon was directly sliced apart. Swoosh! After the Heaven Seat King sliced the huge purple gold dragon, a vicious expression flashed across his eyes. After all, he realized how extraordinary Lin Dong was and knew that such an opponent posed a major threat to his devil prison. Hence, he wanted to kill him as soon as possible. With this thought in mind, the Heaven Seat King took a step forward before he appeared right in front of Lin Dong. Following which, he straightened two fingers. Meanwhile, both his fingers were actually covered with black demonic crystals. This transformation occurred after his demonic aura had agglomerated until they reached their limits. In fact, with just a single finger, he could penetrate the world. When Lin Dong saw the Heaven Seat King's attack, his pupils hardened. Following which, 3 different rays of light erupted from within his body. Following which, his entire arm liquidized. Meanwhile, within his arm, the strength of 3 ancestral symbols swept forward. Bang! The Heaven Seat King's fingers jabbed Lin Dong's liquidized palm. Immediately, a muffled sound appeared before Lin Dong's surrounding space collapsed. After which, Lin Dong's body shook before he took dozens of steps back while blood churned within his body. Although his strength had advanced at a terrifying rate, there was still a gap between him and a top expert from the ancient times like the Heaven Seat King. When the Heaven Seat King saw that his finger attack was only able to push Lin Dong back without causing any severe injuries, he felt somewhat displeased. Promptly, his body shot forward in a phantom-like fashion. Then, he appeared in front of Lin Dong again as he prepared to continue his attack. However, just as the Heaven Seat King was about to attack, an icy blue figure appeared in front of Lin Dong. After which, she angrily jabbed with her delicate jade-like finger before she clashed head-on with the Heaven Seat King. Crack! The demonic aura and cold aura swept forward, causing the space itself to vibrate continuously. Both parties clashed. After which, both their bodies shook before both of them retreated by a couple of steps. After which, the Heaven Seat King gave a faint smile before he said, "Ice Master, why are you so upset? I am helping you to teach him a lesson after I saw that he did not understand why you had to make a sacrifice for the sake of everyone else. You aren't qualified to do so." A fearsome glint was glimmering within Ying Huan's crystal-clear pretty eyes as she stared at the Heaven Seat King. Meanwhile, rich and dense murderous desire surged from within the deepest part of her eyes. "Ha ha, you have actually lost your temper. What a rare sight," the Heaven Seat King teased. However, his eyes were not smiling at all. Instead, there was only pure ruthlessness in his eyes. "Don't act recklessly. I will give you a proper explanation once this is over." Ying Huan turned her head. Her crystal long hair was dancing gently with the wind. She looked at the skinny figure behind her before she softly said. Lin Dong stared intently at this alluring figure. A moment later, he waved his hand before he said in a tired manner, "All right then. Do what you want." After he spoke, Lin Dong retreated. When she heard this, Ying Huan involuntarily clenched her fists. At this moment, even though her emotions were already frozen, she still felt a little upset when she heard his words. Huff. However, this was indeed not the right time to be talking about this. Therefore, she inhaled a deep breath and suppressed the emotions in her heart. After which, she used her crystal-clear pretty eyes before she stared at the Heaven Seat King with a smile. After fighting for so many years, this was the first time she felt such rich murderous desire towards this fellow that it nearly caused her to lose control. A frightening chill spread. Ying Huan clenched her jade-like hand gently before an ice spear slowly extended. Following which, murderous desire surged within her pretty eyes, before she finally lost control as her delicate figure rushed forward. Ice and snow swept across the sky before her cold sharp spear shadow, which could even freeze space and time itself, charged straight towards the Heaven Seat King. "Ha ha, have you lost it?" The Heaven Seat King laughed out loud towards the sky when he saw this. Demonic aura surged before he rushed forward instantly. After which, an extremely frightening ripple swept across the sky. "Let's fight!" A cold glint flashed across the eyes of the Life-Death Master after she saw that the two of them had started fighting. Subsequently, her body moved before she rushed towards the Second Seat King. "Leave this fellow to me. Leave that big fellow to me." The Chaos Master looked at the Cosmic Evil Devil King. Following which, purple gold light surged across his body, before his body swelled rapidly and he quickly transformed into 100,000 feet tall giant. His feet stepped on the ground before he charged towards the Cosmic Evil Devil King in a rumbling fashion. "Since all of you have started to choose your opponents, allow me to do the same." The Devil Prison, Third Seat King, gave a faint smile. Then, he turned to look at Lin Dong before he said, "It seems like you are quite a pushover. How about I take you out first?" With no emotions on his face, Lin Dong walked on the air. Suddenly, 100,000 feet large divine light erupted from between his brows. Faintly, the divine palace seemed to have appeared. Divine Palace Master level. The Third Seat King's pupils hardened after he saw that divine palace. Only then did he understand why Lin Dong was qualified to stand alongside the ancient masters. "Leave him to me." With a fearsome expression in his eyes, Lin Dong stared at the Third Seat King, before he dropped a message to the Flame Masters group. After which, without further ado, a resplendent divine light erupted from between his brows before he dashed straight towards the Third Seat King. The Flame Masters group nodded upon seeing this. Currently, Lin Dong's strength was on par with them. Therefore, thanks to his divine palace, it was possible for him to fight the Third Seat King. The Third Seat King's face was still filled with smiles. He flipped his hand before a devil light shot out from the evil eye on his palm, intercepting the divine light that had shot out from the divine palace between Lin Dong's brows. Lin Dong moved and appeared in front of the third seat king. The Flame Master and the rest also began their attack, as they intercepted the remaining members of the upper echelon of the Devil Prison. Currently, the sky and ground were divided into several battlegrounds. Meanwhile, the terrifying energy fluctuations from them affected the entire Western Xian region. In fact, even the citizens of the other three Xian regions could feel them as well. Soon after, countless pairs of anxiety-filled eyes looked towards this extremely distant location. You are quite impressive indeed. It has only been a year since we last met, yet you have actually formed a divine palace. The third seat king looked at Lin Dong, who was standing in front of him, before he said with a faint smile. Lin Dong glanced at him indifferently. Currently, he was no longer in the mood for such an unnecessary conversation. Immediately, his body trembled before both his arms quickly liquidized. Following which, the strength of three great ancestral symbols erupted. After he advanced to the Divine Palace Master level, Lin Dong's control over the ancestral symbols have clearly reached a godlike level. Swoosh! Lin Dong moved. He seemingly teleported as he appeared above the head of the third seat king instantaneously. Meanwhile, his ancestral symbol palm, which contained vast and mighty Yuan power, ruthlessly smashed towards the latter's head together with a terrifying force. Bang! Although Lin Dong's strength had soared, the third seat king was no pushover as well. Immediately, his body shook before viscous demonic aura gathered on his body. Then, they transformed into a ferocious-looking Black Devil Emperor armor. Finally, he threw a punch and clashed head-on with Lin Dong. A palm and fist slammed together furiously. Immediately, the surrounding space began to collapse an inch at a time. The shattered signs were startling obvious and shocking, and they looked just like cracked glass. After throwing a punch, the third seat king showed no mercy. Many dark black sharp thorns quickly appeared on his ferocious-looking Devil Emperor armor before he turned his body and swept towards Lin Dong like a hurricane. In fact, this attack was so sharp that it even cut the empty space itself. Nonetheless, Lin Dong did not step back after seeing this. Instead, the glow from his three ancestral symbols flashed wildly across his body. After which, his entire body gradually liquidized. In an instant, the liquidized ancestral symbol's strength suddenly solidified. Then, they actually transformed into a black, lightning and silver-colored armor on his body. Bang! A battle armor formed by his three great ancestral symbols enveloped Lin Dong's body. Following which, he threw both his fists forward. Countless black holes, thunderbolts and silver light formed under his fists. Finally, they ruthlessly smashed against that incomparably sharp black hurricane. Clang, clang, clang. The two of them clashed head-on before sparks flew. In fact, the resulting shockwaves caused the world to tremble. The two of them were just like crazy madmen as they clashed together furiously and threw punches continuously. In fact, both of them were putting their lives on the line with every attack. The force within each punch could kill an elite reincarnation stage expert. However, they also relied on their powerful armors to forcefully endure the attacks. While Lin Dong and the third seat king fought manically, the fight within the few other battlegrounds in the sky quickly heated up. After all, both parties had fought for numerous years and they were well aware of each other's techniques. Therefore, they were completely merciless in this all-out fight. The empty space cracked while the sky shattered. This fight seemed capable of destroying the entire world. This fight was an extremely fearsome and miserable one. Demonic chi raged and Yuan power surged over the land. A terrifying fight was occurring here. This astonishing battle was the first of its kind for many millennia. In summary, the place was divided into two giant battlefields, namely the land and the sky. These domains were where the Alliance army fought the Devil Prison army and the battle between the upper echelons of both sides took place. The higher altitudes was more or less where Lin Dong and the Ancient Masters fought with the highest-ranked members of Devil Prison. Both parties had fought since ancient times, and they clearly understood each other's strength. Such a battle was unnaturally intense, and both sides were merciless in their attacks. Boom boom. Lin Dong was currently engaged in battle with the Third Seat King. He was not weaker than the latter since he had advanced to the Divine Palace level. Hence, it was impossible for the Third Seat King to easily defeat Lin Dong like a year ago. Swoosh! The two had transformed into streaks of light that weaved together in the sky, while the clouds continued to rush past both of them. At such a great height, it was possible for them to see two torrents smashing against each other when they turned their heads down. Murderous desire and the smell of blood dashed towards the clouds. Lin Dong's body was wrapped in the ancestral symbol armor. He was akin to a human-shaped Terminator, and was completely unafraid of the Third Seat King's Devil Emperor armor. Countless black holes, thunderbolts and silver light would form every time he threw a punch. The strength of the three great ancestral symbols had completely merged together at this moment. This wildness and violence caused even the Third Seat King to have no choice but to be serious. Boom! The eyes of the two were filled with savagery. Each threw a punch forward, and two punches that contained all of their power clashed. Space crumbled and the both of them were thrown several tens of thousands of feet backwards. With a stomp on the air, they once again rushed forward. Almost 100,000 purple gold dragon tattoos rapidly soared. Lin Dong was now even more powerful than Qing Shi when unleashing the Green Heaven Dragon materialization skill. Despite this, it was still difficult for him to gain an obvious advantage. The Third Seat King was evidently no ordinary foe. A sea of viscous demonic qi gushed forth and completely received all of Lin Dong's wild and violent attacks. Ch. Lin Dong rushed forward as he clenched his hand. The power of three ancestral symbols swept forth and turned into a scepter that glowed with three different colors. Lightning flashed at the tip, while silver light emanated from the center of its body. Its end was completely pitch black, appearing like a rotating black hole. Swoosh swoosh! Lin Dong's arm shook and the ancestral symbol scepter turned into numerous scepter shadows that covered the sky as they approached the Third Seat King. Door of the Black Devil! A fierce glint flashed in the eyes of the Third Seat King as a demonic palm slammed heavily onto the empty space in front of him. Viscous demonic chi swept out and transformed into a 10,000 feet tall door of darkness that contained an extremely sinister depiction of a devil. Bang bang bang! The scepter shadows that contained the power of three ancestral symbols viciously attacked. Soon after, many cracks appeared on the Black Devil door. Lin Dong swiftly merged with the ancestral symbol scepter as they rushed forward and pierced the giant door. Swoosh! Silver light suddenly flashed when the ancestral symbol scepter penetrated the giant door. One end of the scepter was still in Lin Dong's hand, while the other end had strangely appeared behind the Third Seat King as it mercilessly thrust towards his back. Clang! Sparks flew and the body of the Third Seat King shot backwards in a miserable fashion. A deep dent had been left on the Devil Emperor armor on his back. However, before he could become angry, the space around him rippled as countless lightning-infused scepter shadows bizarrely penetrated space and shot towards his fatal spots. Clang clang clang! In the short span of a dozen breaths, all of the scepter shadows had already landed on the Third Seat King's body. Numerous terrible scars had appeared on the sinister Devil Emperor armor, making it look somewhat miserable. Roar! The eyes of the Third Seat King suddenly turned red after being violently beaten. A sharp roar exploded from his throat as he threw a punch. Frightening demonic chi gathered on his fist and turned into glittering black light as the punch was ruthlessly thrown. The light contained dense demonic chi that had been suppressed to the limit. It directly blasted the air apart as it exploded onto Lin Dong's body. Bang! Lin Dong's body was sent flying backwards, and cracks had emerged on the ancestral symbol armor. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth as the blood in his body churned. The Third Seat King was indeed worthy of being a peak-level existence within Devil Prison. His fighting strength was the strongest amongst the opponents that Lin Dong had fought with over the years. This fight would definitely be a difficult one. Having forced Lin Dong back, the Third Seat King glanced at the damaged Devil Emperor armor that was covered in cracks, and the ferocity in his eyes intensified. He licked his lips and stared at Lin Dong in a sinister fashion. It was unexpected that this seemingly weakest person would actually be so difficult to deal with. Although the main goal today is not to fight with all of you, I am really displeased after being beaten by you in such a manner, the third seat king Grin said to Lin Dong. Lin Dong narrowed his eyes, not to fight. The third seat king smiled faintly. He lowered his head and glanced at the seemingly endless fighting below. He was able to sense a bloody and brutal aura that was rapidly accumulating. I have heard of you long ago from those three trash of Yuan Gate. Originally, I believed that you were just an insignificant ant. I would never have imagined that I would one day be pushed by an ant like you to such a state. The third seat king slowly lifted his right hand. The evil eye in his palm blinked as it looked at Lin Dong, a sight that made one's hair stand on ends. However, I think that I will feel much better if I finish you off before that. Ha ha, after all, I should not leave behind any regrets. Don't you agree? Lin Dong watched as the third seat king that had suddenly begun to spout nonsense. A faint feeling of unease flashed across his heart for some unknown reason. This eye is called the Prison Devil Eye. It was bestowed to me by the Emperor. Back then, I used it to launch a sneak attack against the symbol ancestor. I believe that you should be satisfied if you die at its hands, right? The third seat king gently placed his hands together. The smile on his lips was exceptionally twisted. Lin Dong's eyes stared at him in an indifferent fashion. However, he did not show any signs of replying. So boring. The third seat king's lips involuntarily twitched after seeing Lin Dong's unchanged expression. Soon after, frightening demonic chi swept out from within his body. The demonic chi was extremely thick, and it was even possible to see countless tiny crystals within it. This was a transformation that would only appear when demonic chi agglomerated to a frightening extent. Buzz buzz. Torrential demonic chi flowed into the arm of the third seat king, causing it to become as black as ink, while the evil eye on his palm emitted a deafening and sharp buzzing noise. The evil ripple instantly grew countless times stronger. The third seat king sinisterly smiled at Lin Dong. After which, the latter saw his arm wither at a frightening speed. Within a short couple of breaths, it looked as though the blood inside had completely vanished. There was only the evil eyeball left that had become increasingly ferocious and frightening. Bang! The arm of the third seat king suddenly exploded at this moment as the eyeball escaped from his palm. Demonic chi surged as the eye swiftly swelled. In the short span of several breaths, it was already 10,000 feet in size. The evil eyeball floated high up in the air while monstrous evil demonic chi unfurled. Meanwhile, a frightening fluctuation stealthily spread. Lin Dong gazed upon the menacing giant evil eye, and the expression in his eyes turned a lot more grave as he felt the frightening fluctuations. He deeply inhaled a breath of air and with a clench of his hand, an ancient light formation flew out. The formation expanded and became tens of thousands of feet large. The ancient formation rotated slowly as a pure and ancient power rippled outwards. It was the true ancient universe formation. Ancient universe formation, huh? The third seat king frowned slightly. Soon after, he stared at Lin Dong and the giant evil eyeball slowly closed. The ancient universe formation started to revolve, and a unique curtain of light poured down. The demonic chi that filled the sky showed signs of being forced back. Only that evil eye remained unmoved. However, Lin Dong could vaguely sense a kind of annihilation-like strength rapidly gathering. Such power made one uneasy. Who? Lin Dong breathed in deeply. A cold glint flashed in his eyes as his hands formed a seal. Mighty Yuan power swept out. Hand of the universe? In the sky, the ancient universe formation started to tremble violently. Strange light spread from it and turned into a giant hand tens of thousands of feet in size. The giant hand was covered by ancient runes of light. The hand reached forward, tearing across space as it viciously slammed down onto the eyeball. Ha ha! The third seat king smiled faintly and slowly shut his eyes. Black blood flowed out from the corners of his eyes, and as he shut them, the enormous evil eye suddenly opened. The sky seemed to have suddenly darkened the moment the eyeball opened. Everyone could see the most evil ray of light erupt from within the eyeball. Finally, it clashed with the giant universe hand. Sizzle! The collision between the two did not lead to any terrifying fluctuations. The giant universe hand violently trembled as cracks appeared. With a bang, it was completely blasted apart by the beam of light. The moment the universe hand was shattered, divine light suddenly appeared behind it and an incomparably huge divine palace appeared from out of nowhere. The divine palace stood in a towering manner like the home of the gods, a mighty and majestic sight. Bang! The evil ray of light that had penetrated the universe hand shot across the sky. After which, it once again viciously struck the majestic divine palace. Rumble! A loud buzzing sound resounded over the land. The entire divine palace shook fiercely at this moment. A figure stood tall inside the divine palace. The lightning bow in his hand had been pulled into a full moon, while 3 colors emerged on the arrow marked on it. Moreover, the vast and endless mental energy within the divine palace surged out at this moment and poured into the arrow. Buzz! This arrow vibrated as a torrential divine light exploded from it. The light seemed to suppress even the monstrous evil aura. Lin Dong's arm shook while fresh blood rapidly flowed from his hands. He gently shut his eyes as he slowly released his finger on the bowstring. The entire divine palace unleashed a clear buzzing sound the instant Lin Dong's finger released the bowstring. At the same time, tens of thousands of resplendent divine rays poured into the 3-colored arrow. This arrow was the condensation of all the power within Lin Dong's body. Swoosh! A streak of light shot out from the divine palace. The rays emitted at that very moment seemed to vaporize all the evil aura that permeated the sky. Countless shocked eyes looked over. They watched as the streak of light shot out and violently clashed with the incomparably evil light beam. Boom! An earth-shaking sound appeared. The light was just like the slowly rising scorching sun. Endless demonic chi disappeared under its rays. Break! A hoarse voice slowly spread from within the divine palace. After which, everyone watched as faint cracks started to emerge on the evil light beam which could force back even a peak expert who had experienced 3 reincarnation tribulations. Crack crack! The evil light ray ultimately shattered under the streak of light. The light faded. However, the 3-colored arrow continued on with the same momentum, tearing through the sky and ruthlessly shooting towards the incomparably huge evil eye with lightning speed. Ah! An incredibly miserable cry suddenly emerged from the mouth of the third seat king. One could hear a shattering sound from his eyes. After which, they rapidly caved in and black blood began to frantically flow out. It presented an extremely horrifying sight. Meanwhile, the giant evil eye rapidly shrunk. It ultimately turned into a speck of dim black light that shot back into the third seat king's hand. However, the latter continued to cover his eyes with his hands while ferocious howls rang out from his throat. The divine palace slowly disappeared. After which, it returned to Lin Dong's forehead. His body appeared as his quivering hand wiped off the blood on the corner of his mouth. This third seat king was vicious indeed. If it was not because Lin Dong's strength had soared, together with the use of the ancient universe formation, divine palace and the perfect merger of the 3 ancestral symbols into the arrow, it was likely that he would be the one screaming miserably now. The miserable screech of the third seat king spread across the sky. Strangely, however, the devil prison army below momentarily slowed when his terrible scream sounded. The battlegrounds in the sky also showed signs of pausing. However, this was only on the side of Devil Prison. Lin Dong was startled when he discovered this strange scene. He looked at the third seat king, who was screaming in an unresigned manner, as uncertainty rose in his heart. Although the third seat king was gravely injured, he still had it in him to continue fighting. Why was he acting as though death was certain? At the highest part of the sky, the heaven seat king dodged and pulled back. His clothes appeared a little tattered. This was evidently a result of his battle with Ying Huan. He then looked at the miserably screaming third seat king. After which, he glanced at the bloody and brutal aura that permeated the sky. Suddenly, he smiled towards the nearby Ying Huan, whose body was giving off a terrifying cold chi. Old 3, I did not expect that you would actually be the first to be injured. The heaven seat king turned his head, looked at the third seat king and smilingly said. The miserable screech of the third seat king gradually came to a halt. His face was covered in black blood, an exceptionally terrifying sight. The other upper echelons of Devil Prison also stared at the third seat king. Their expressions were somewhat strange and feverish. TSK, that's right, the third seat king wiped the black blood on his face as a strange laughter was emitted. He looked towards Lin Dong and said, "You are indeed impressive. Originally, I thought that we would have to fight for a while longer. I did not expect to be so quickly injured by you." Lin Dong frowned. He looked at the somewhat strange third seat king group as unease flashed across his heart. After which, he shifted his gaze and exchanged a look with the Flame Master group, only to see that they were also frowning. The fight is not over. Isn't it a little too early to cry? The Thunderbolt Master laughed coldly. Ha ha, we have fought for so many years. Aren't we already well aware of each other's skills? We might not be able to deal with all of you, but do you think it will be so easy to eliminate us? The Heaven Seat King laughed. Ice Master has said that she is already tired of such an endless charade. Isn't it the same for us? Therefore, we really wish to kill all of you this time around. Can you do it? The Life-Death Master mocked. What do you think? A strange expression once again rose on the Heaven Seat King's face. He smiled towards the third seat king and said, "Old three, since you have lost, you will be the one to open it." The third seat king smiled strangely and nodded after hearing this. After which, he sat down in the sky under the attention of countless pairs of eyes. His hands formed a seal as the black blood flowing down his face became even thicker. An extreme feeling of unease spread. A cold glint flashed across Lin Dong's black eyes when he saw their unusual actions. Silver light flashed and he appeared in front of the third seat king like a phantom. The ancestral symbol scepter in his hand shot out and pierced towards the throat of the third seat king with lightning speed. Puff! The ancestral symbol scepter penetrated through the defenses of the third seat king without any obstruction and shot out through the throat of the third seat king under the numerous gazes of disbelief. Black blood spluttered wildly. The third seat king was killed? A great uproar erupted from within the Alliance army. However, no one was cheering. Everyone could feel that something was amiss. How could this top expert of Devil Prison, who had once forced the 8 ancient masters to fall into slumber or reincarnation, be killed with such ease? Ha ha! The third seat king lifted his head. His bloody face gave Lin Dong a hideous smile. After which, his body began to swell uncontrollably. This is bad. Lin Dong's heart shook when he saw this. Silver light flashed around his body and he disappeared in a flash. Bang! The body of the third seat king suddenly exploded just as Lin Dong disappeared. Viscous black demonic chi and blood flew outwards, covering the entire sky in the process. The liquid-like evil demonic chi mixed with thick blood fell from the sky and landed on the ground below. Lin Dong's body appeared some distance away as a feeling of sweetness rose in his throat. Although he was quick to flee earlier, he was still hurt by the self-destruction of the third seat king. This fellow actually self-destructed? Lin Dong appeared a little dazed as he watched the evil demonic chi spread over the place. He would never have imagined that this third seat king would actually choose to self-destruct. Just what were these fellows planning? Ha ha! The Heaven Seat King pursed his lips slightly as he observed this scene. After which, he smiled towards Lin Dong's group. Next, please take a look at our millennia-long masterpiece. I have long said that you will lose this world war this time. Rumble. The land below suddenly began to tremble violently as the words of the Heaven Seat King faded. One could see the ground split apart and demonic chi spread. A demonic figure so huge that one was unable to see where it ended slowly stood up from the depths of the land. The demonic figure climbed up from the endless abyss. Its head reached the sky when it stood on the ground. Demonic chi pervaded the air. The figure appeared just like the Emperor of the Devils. Lin Dong's pupils rapidly shrunk as he gazed upon the demonic figure that was accompanied by a terrifying pressure. The demonic figure seemed to possess countless giant demonic arms. At the center of each hand was a tightly shut evil devil eye. These eyes were even more frightening than the evil eye on the hand of the third Seat King. Devil Emperor Avatar. Ying Huan looked at the extremely frightening demonic figure. An endless chill surged from her pretty face as she slowly uttered each word with emphasis. Everyone, the feast has begun. Thank you for your cooperation. The Heaven Seat King smiled faintly. He stood in the sky and gently bowed towards the Alliance army. Bang bang bang. Countless explosions sounded from the Devil Prison army as his words faded. Soon after, the countless experts of the Alliance army watched as the Devil Prison army self-destructed one after another. Dense demonic chi mixed with pieces of black flesh accompanied flew. Finally, they entered the Devil Emperor Avatar. Following the influx of this seemingly endless amount of demonic chi, blood and flesh, the evil eyes on the hands of the Devil Emperor Avatar opened one after another. The world became darker with the opening of each eye. Boom boom. Explosions swiftly continued. The entire desert seemed to have turned into a sea of black liquid at this very moment. The Alliance army hurriedly rose into the air. Their eyes were shocked as they observed this scene. Monstrous demonic chi, along with the bloody and brutal aura created from the earlier battle, continued to enter the Devil Emperor Avatar, opening one eye after another. However, it was not an easy task to open all of the eyes of this Devil Emperor Avatar. Not even half of the eyes on the Devil Emperor Avatar were opened even after the entire Devil Prison army had self-destructed. It is your turn. The Heaven Seat King looked at the other upper echelons of Devil Prison and softly chuckled. Strange smiles surfaced on the seated king's face when they heard this. There was a fanatical look in their smiles. They quickly sat down and self-destructed in front of the eyes of the ancient masters. Boom boom. Terrifying demonic chi swept over the place, blotting out the sun. The expressions of the ancient masters were very grim. They had failed to kill these fellows after battling them for thousands of years. Yet, in less than half a day, all of them had chosen to self-destruct. What were these fellows planning? Torrential demonic chi, flesh and blood surged into the Devil Emperor Avatar, once again opening many evil eyes. The Heaven Seat King stood alone in the sky as he smilingly looked at Ying Huan. The strange expression on his face made one shudder. Activating the Devil Emperor Avatar can indeed allow you to possess a strength that is extremely close to the Yimo Emperor. However, such power will not remain for long. Even if you start the activation process, you will still be unable to succeed without the blood and flesh of the Yimo Emperor as a conduit. Ying Huan's icy crystal-like eyes stared at the Heaven Seat King as she slowly said, "It doesn't matter if all of us die here if we can eliminate you from this world. At the very least, the world will no longer be invaded by the Yimo in future. Since that is so, we can be said to have won." The Heaven Seat King smiled faintly. How virtuous. However, I'm afraid that the ones who have lost are you guys. The Heaven Seat King turned his head and looked to the distant east as he grinned. Ice Master, do you still remember that the symbol ancestor had once cut off one of the Emperor's arm when sealing him? The expression in Ying Huan's eyes finally underwent a change when she heard this. Ha ha, you are correct. The arm of the Emperor is still in this world of yours. In reality, you have already lost ever since the symbol ancestor ignited his reincarnation to seal the Emperor. Your symbol ancestor ultimately cannot compare with our Emperor. The Heaven Seat King knelt respectfully towards the east. Hand of the Emperor, please take your position. While his words resounded over the sky, the land within the unique devil region in the distant eastern Xian region began to tremble. After which, the land crumbled, and a flood of demonic chi swept out. Demonic light pierced the ancient formation sealing the area. After which, it tore through the sky and rushed towards the western Xian region. An enormous white arm was vaguely visible within the black light. Meanwhile, an indescribable evilness engulfed the place. This episode ends here.